Okay, just got the recording started, got a couple more people joining. So this is Scott, our brand president. He has been at FiiZ for 6 weeks now, just working on seven. And you did a call maybe a month ago. That was to introduce your background, and there's a video that kind of goes over Scott's background. Um, that we uploaded to our YouTube channel about a month ago. Now it's kind of like, let's hear an update. You've been here for almost 7 weeks. What have you been working on, and where do you kind of see the brand going from here?
Yeah, Justin, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to meet everybody. I'm assuming everybody here are potential franchisees. Is that correct, Justin?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. So first of all, I'll just do a quick intro. My name is Scott Ball, and as Justin said, I have been with the brand now going on week 7. So it's been a crazy 7 weeks, but it's been exciting. We've had a lot going on. Just to give you a little bit of background on me, I've been in the restaurant hospitality industry for 25 plus years. I've spent the majority of my career both from a franchisor side, working with a company called Triarch Restaurant Group, actually in kind of Justin's role on a development side, franchising side, working with brands like Arby's, TJ Cinnamons, and the Snapple Beverage Group. And then from there, kind of got into the Dunkin' Donuts world. If you guys have anybody from the East Coast, Dunkin' Donuts is a big tier one brand. I was actually a franchisee with Dunkin'. I had over 20 locations in the Florida market. And in addition to being a franchisee, was also on the brand advisory council. So I was the elected Southeast representative for the brand advisory council. I did that for 5 plus years. And that gave me a great opportunity to kind of see, on the other side of things from a brand standpoint, from a strategic standpoint, on, what is it all about from a product innovation standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, from a strategic initiative standpoint, and really having an opportunity to work with the brand themselves to putting together those initiatives, moving forward. At the end of the day, I'm a big believer. First of all, we are a franchisee-based system. Our basically, with the exception of 4 or 5 locations, we are 100%, or 95%, franchise. And really, it's about you guys. So everything we do is about our franchisees and making them successful. And my two initiatives, at the end of the day, it's about franchisee profitability. The more money you guys are making, the more money you're putting in your pockets, the more opportunity you have for growth and expansion, and so forth. So that's a big piece of it. And for me, how do we do that? We drive that 2 ways. Number one, it's my job to make sure we continue to drive costs down. And even though over the last few years with the pandemic and all that, costs have generally been going up. There are a lot of initiatives that we are working on that my team's working on right now to continue to drive costs down. And the other way we're going to grow our business is obviously by increasing our revenue. And we've got some great opportunities there through marketing, PR, and so forth. So we got a lot of exciting stuff going on at FiiZ. We're a relatively small brand right now. We're at 70 plus units. We're working on deals over the next few years to open up, definitely a few hundred more stores and more. So we're pretty excited about our future. We're kind of, creating that foundation of growth for, the next 5 years. And, we're pretty excited about it. We got a lot going on. We're negotiating new contracts with some of our vendors. Just a bunch of initiatives. We got a menu optimization plan that we're working on. We're actually rolling out on January 1st, and that's the purpose of that is to help again drive sales, but also remove costs. So we're working on a plan right now where we're hoping to eliminate between 8 and 10 points on our P&L, which for you guys is huge. And we're gonna do that through a number of initiatives. Some I've already mentioned. We just negotiated a new Dr. Pepper contract. We're just finalizing a new Coke and a new national Pepsi contract, which we have not had in the past. So these are all things that are continue to help drive costs down and at the end of the day, put more money in your pocket. So because that's really what it's all about. So yeah, Justin, is there anything else you think I should touch on? You want to open it up for questions?
Yeah, no, I think you could open it up to questions. You could maybe when they ask a question, they could introduce themselves a little bit, what area you're looking at and what you're wanting to do, and then go into a question. So
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And by the way, I'm an open book guy, so whatever you want to ask, I'll do my best to answer it. So thank you.
I'll go
Well,
for it. I'll be the testimony. So Jason, I'm excited about looking at opportunities in Washington State. And so worked with Justin a little bit to learn some things there. I would love to just hear when scouting locations, like outside of it being drive-through, kind of what else should we be looking for as, you know, things that FiiZ would want as part of opening a new location.
yeah, Jason, great question. Here's what I'll tell you. From what we know right now, is drive-through is a big driver, and in our fast casual world, or even QSR world, drive-through is really important, to our brand and to most brands, as you see. So clearly, that means real estate becomes important, right? So without the right real estate, you have to figure that out. What I will tell you is that we're not 100% contingent on having a drive-through, but we definitely recommend that a drive-through be part of the plan. Now, there are instances where we're actually working with a group right now. They're actually looking to open up some mall locations. So we're talking about that. We do have some locations that don't have drive-through, but have extensive like walk-up ability. So that is definitely an option. And again, so it kind of depends on your market. Every market's a little bit different, but generally speaking, and I think Justin would agree, drive-through is definitely important. I'm right now in our typical drive-through unit, about 80% of our business comes through the drive-through. So, I want to be clear on that. Like that is absolutely, vital to your success and growth. But
Mhm.
having said that, there are situations and examples of where if you don't have a drive-through, we could still make it work. It just might be at a different level.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And by the way, where in the Washington State are you looking?
I'd say Bellevue, Issaquah, the I-90 corridor.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, we just recently opened our first one is it
In
Richland,
Richland.
Justin?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you, man, they're killing it. It's been a great experience for us because as you guys know, we've been, predominantly a Utah brand. The fact that we're now starting to open up in other locations and to see the success that Richland's had, we've been really, really excited about. So
Nice.
that's some momentum that, especially you in the Washington area, I think should be excited about and certainly for other areas as well. So
That's great.
oh, and
yeah,
Scott, just a heads up, a few of these people are in states where we're not currently registered in.
yep,
And
that's fine.
so we're just to update everybody that's in that situation. We're getting fairly close on a process that could work for you if you are an accredited investor. But still just kind of waiting to get that final approval from our franchise attorneys at this point, and then I'll be in touch with you guys and roll out that process. So we've got a question in the chat about California, and I mean everywhere in California right now is open,
Yep.
and California is kind of a scary market that we've talked about a little bit, but in some situations it could be really, really good.
I
So
Yeah,
agree.
and I'll just touch on that real quick. I mean,
yeah.
as we are in an expansion mode from our brand perspective, I've gone to Justin and the team and said, look, California is one of those markets, guys, we have to be in. So, let's do it. And so obviously we want to make sure as a brand we're doing our due diligence. We understand some of the challenges of California, but we also understand a lot of the positives of California. So we're excited about that, and we're going to do our expansion and grow with our franchisees in the right situations in the right markets. So, but definitely California is we're excited about that.
Yeah.
When
Scott.
when you guys are saying, sorry, this
Oh,
is
you go ahead.
Hi, my name's Kat Fairchild, by the way.
Hey, Kat.
Hi. Yeah, I think for maybe maybe it was like 4 years ago that I had reached out and asked about California. So when you say you're excited, does that mean that you guys are like in the California market, or that's
No, so we haven't physically opened up a store in California, but like I just mentioned, one of the first I said to Justin is we need to go to California. It's one of the states that we want to be in. So if you guys have an interest in California, let's get with Justin. Let's start that process.
Mhm.
Here's what I will tell you, just generally speaking about from a franchising and a development standpoint. I have two main, criteria basically. Number one, that you're financially, ready to be able to handle, our business and any franchise business. Number one, and number two is we really want you guys to have either restaurant or some type of operational experience. What we have found and what I have found in my career is that the people that have experience either in the restaurant, the hospitality, or just generally speaking operational experience, your success rates go up substantially when you have that type of background. So having the financial ability and having the operational ability are the two main criteria that we look for, moving forward. And Justin can go through and more in detail what for example, what those financial requirements are. But yeah, we're excited. The other thing I'll just say in regards to our development and franchising is, we're not our goal right now. We're looking at the minimum of 3 to 5 units in any market. So, we're not going to just open up one store in LA or one store in Sacramento or one store in Orange County. It has to be and that's really to benefit you guys. The more saturation, the more units we can have in a specific market, it does benefit you from a economies of scale, from a marketing standpoint, from a distribution standpoint. So just keep that in mind as well.
There's another question in the chat. I don't know if you see that, Scott?
I saw it pop up, but I don't see it right now.
So, what does killing it mean in Richland, Washington? What kind of gross sales are they doing, and what kind of runway did they experience? What is the typical margin for your franchisees? And then what's the royalty fee? Which royalty fee is 8%. And then I can let you tackle the rest.
Yeah, and I apologize. I don't have the sales and numbers in front of me, but I'll have Justin absolutely send out, that information. But they have absolutely exceeded our expectations. Justin, do you have any updates? Like, what did they do their grand opening day and
Well,
weekend?
I don't, but it is kind of tough to know information we can share that's not on our FDD.
Yeah.
We could schedule a group validation call with them where they could hop on and I mean, my experience, like they can share whatever they want to about their specific store. Um,
Correct.
I just think it gets a little tricky when it's coming from corporate that's not on our FDD.
Correct. And Justin, I appreciate you saying that. And, we can try to get you. But again, what I will say is they have exceeded our expectations. I think they've exceeded their own expectations. And we're excited. And I don't know I think it was Jason who said he was aware of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've actually been to that location or stopped by that location, but we're pretty excited about it, and so much so that they've already started. They're already working on their next unit. So
Okay.
that's a positive from our perspective.
Hey, Scott, this is Adelaide da Silva. I'm looking into one in the Chicagoland market, born and raised in Chicago.
Awesome.
Yeah, with ties.
We just discussed Chicago the other day. So
Yeah, it's Chicago is a crazy market in all aspects. I'm actually in operations for healthcare, so I'm not in the food and beverage market. But I've been an entrepreneur for close to almost like 17 years now. So with that being said, I see the trends a lot. Lately, I think I've seen a lot more with social media. I get a lot of updates from friends and whatnot on. I even got something from the New Yorker. I don't know if you guys saw the article the other day that came from the New Yorker on soda shops popping
yeah.
up. And so I study a lot of the market trends just in general, and it's definitely booming. What do you say? I mean, you came from the Dunkin' Donuts days, where you were, 20 franchises. And congrats, by the way. That's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Number one, did you bring in investors for the first three, four stores, and or did you do by yourself and then bring in investors? Because I got a lot of people asking me to, hey, let's do this. I mean, I try to do it by myself, but looking at the minimums of 3 to 4 too would be kind of good to get your intake or your insights to that thought process. Number one, and number two, do you see the Starbucks trying to jump to this type of model as well down the road? I mean, if it takes off, it could be something that could be, a lot of other groups, which Panera Bread or whoever would try to mimic this type of stuff. So anyway, those are the two questions I had.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. Great questions. Let me answer the first one first. So when I got started with Dunkin', I purchased 2 locations, and I did that actually through an SBA loan. So SBA is a great way to start up your process from a financing standpoint if you don't have the cash. It's typically minimal down. I think it's like 5 or 10% down. And then you get to amortize that, over, I think it's like a 10-year period. So SBA is definitely a great way to get started. As I continued to grow and was starting to develop and generate cash flow, I was able to use cash to, continue to fund my expansion and development. Over a period of time, I also developed some credit relationships where I had credit lines and lending partners for me to go ahead and borrow the money to do it. Now, keep in mind, and I'll be, just to be perfectly honest, interest rates now are a little higher than they were a few years ago, so there's a little bit of a challenge in that. But having said that, there is some good market, and I do believe, by the way, the credit markets are going to get much better over the short term and even more so on the long term. So I think if you have the right credit partners, I think that's definitely definitely a good way to start and move forward, and we can certainly help you, through that process. In regards to your second question, just remind me real quick
Just coming from we have a lot of Dunkin' Donuts.
About Starbucks, yeah.
Yeah, Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts in general. Would they wanted to see the successes of this, or even, quite frankly, what's that other company in Utah that's all over the place? Swig, right? Yeah. They just opened their first unit in Indianapolis, and I'm in Indianapolis quite a bit, and so I stopped by and looked at it just for kicks and just to see what they're doing. So I mean, obviously Chicago is a phenomenal market for really any business, and obviously we can see they're probably thinking the same thing as we are. So
yeah, listen, Swig is our competitor. We're pretty much neck and neck as far as units, and we're both in a growth mode. So we're definitely there. As far as other, do I think Starbucks is going to get involved in it? I don't think they are. I think they've gotten involved in a little bit of some more of the energy drinks. I don't envision them getting into the quote unquote soda business, because it is a very different business. And even just from an equipment standpoint, I think that's a little bit of a challenge, because they're not they don't sell soda at all. So I do think that a Starbucks, or even a Dunkin' for that matter, that's just not their core. But for example, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Sonic, but Sonic has kind of gotten involved a little bit, not at the extent that we have, but they do, they are providing, soda beverages, and they're kind of having a little bit of fun with the sodas as part of their marketing and so forth. So, like I said, I don't think the Starbucks, the Dunkins of the world are going to necessarily get into the soda business, but they have gotten into that energy drink business. Dunkin's come out with a few products. Starbucks, they're more on the coffee side. They don't do anything that's not really coffee related. And by the way, on the coffee side, I'll just share with you, we are looking at kind of coming up with some coffee infused, soda kind of thing. So we're playing with that, teetering with that a little bit. And I think that's some positive, fun things that are going to come down the pike. But yeah, so that's kind of my thought on the industry. But yeah, the soda market right now has gotten a lot of buzz. There's a lot of information out right now, and that's what's piquing our development and our growth plans. We've been very successful, I think, in Utah and out west, but we definitely think that some of these other markets, of which Chicago is absolutely in our it's one of our main markets that we want to go to. And by the way, we've had a lot of interest in Chicago. So I don't know if anybody else on the call is from Chicago, but we've had interest from Chicago, and we're excited about Chicago. And you even mentioned Indianapolis, and all these areas, from the Midwest all the way, actually even to the East Coast. Believe it or not, the Southeast is one of the largest soda consumption markets, in our country. So, there's definitely an opportunity there. We actually just opened up in where was it, Justin? Madison, Mississippi, the Jackson market.
Yep.
We had just signed a deal for multiple stores there, and the first one just opened up literally, I think, like 2 weeks ago. And they also did very well. So they had a good, strong opening. So we're excited about that as well.
Um, Hey Scott, quick question. My name is Gus Nelson. I'm in Florida.
Hey, Gus, where in Florida are you?
I'm in Jacksonville.
Oh, love it. Okay, I had Dunkin's in Jacksonville. I love that area.
Yeah, so actually we moved from Utah to Jacksonville. We researched about 2 years ago, and my wife is she's a fan of Swig. So, but I'm a fan of FiiZ, so that's why I'm interested. I'm trying to figure out what is your plan for Florida? And also, I know Swig is about to open a store in Orlando.
Yep.
And I'm saying also, how do you guys invest in marketing to be able to get more market share from Swig or at least to compete? Because when I was looking at your menus compared to Swig, you have a lot more products, right? Compared to Swig. So I'm trying to figure out, like, would that be kind of confused to the client or to the customers because you have way too much instead of like being condensed as it is for Swig?
Yeah, all great questions. So let me start with Florida. Yeah, Florida is definitely on our map. It's not one of our immediate markets that we're looking to go into. Having said that, if we found the right operator, we would absolutely entertain going to Florida sooner than later. So that's number one. In regards to competing with Swig, yeah, I mean here's what's interesting about our menu. Believe it or not, 80% of our menu is customized. So even though we have a lot of quote unquote items on our menu, most of the time it's somebody walking in and say, hey, I want a Mountain Dew with this and that and this and that, and throw a little bit of this in, a little bit of that. And that's the majority of our customers, believe it or not, which is interesting. And so, but our menu is actually we do a lot of comparisons with Swig. We actually analyze that pretty frequently. But believe it or not, our menus are pretty similar. They're not really that different. We have pretty much the same bases. We have a couple of little, different things, flavor profiles and whatnot. But for the most part, we're pretty close. So, and then the last thing in regards to marketing, marketing is, and this is where, as we grow into other markets and other areas of the country, we have to look at marketing a little bit differently. And that's kind of what I talked about earlier about, we're not looking to open up one store in Jacksonville. We want to open up 5 stores in Jacksonville so we can get that, that economies of scale, but also get that brand saturation that we need, in a market. So, but we do have a full marketing program. We have a full PR program. We have an opening store, both marketing and PR. And as we continue to grow, obviously our marketing will take more of a national kind of, feel. Right now, it's more localized and regional only because of where we're at. So opening up, for example, in a Jacksonville offers a little bit of a challenge from a marketing perspective, because it's tough to piggyback on marketing that we're doing out west, but it doesn't mean we're not going to do it, and we're certainly going to make the investment in it. So hopefully that answers your question. But, like I said, from a development standpoint, we want to do this strategically, and it's got to be with the right partners.
Hello, Scott.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? This is Irfan from Utah.
How are you? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice meeting you. We have talking with Justin. We had like 3-4 meetings. I was a little busy, but now we're moving to Texas, and we're kind of looking locations in like Austin,
Okay.
clean, Copperscove, in that area. So I have discussed with Justin. We're looking location with the drive-through, but if we couldn't find, I mean, if we can't find any drive-through locations, what do you say? Like without uh, your drive-through, would that work? Or you have a lot of locations without drive-through that's working very well? And one more question, do you have any like plans to adding more products, different products in future, or that would be like all for now?
Yeah, so two great questions. Again, thank you for your interest. By the way, Austin's a great town.
Yeah.
Totally excited about, Austin. So in regard to your first question, and I think I mentioned this earlier, typically, in our most of our restaurants do have drive-throughs, and we recommend that they have drive-throughs. 80% of our business typically comes through the drive-through. And by the way, that's pretty standard in the fast casual QSR environment, especially post-COVID. So we definitely recommend you find drive-throughs. Now, drive-throughs can be an end cap. It could be, a freestanding. We are actually looking potentially at doing like a modular version, which would be a smaller footprint, on a smaller piece of land. So those are definitely options. When you get outside of drive-throughs, you just got to be very strategic in how you do that. We do have non-drive-through locations that do well, but generally speaking, drive-through is pretty important to the success of your business. Like I said, I think I said it earlier, we're working with a developer right now to put some stores in malls. So obviously malls are a little bit different. We actually have a corporate store that we're doing right now in an outdoor kind of a mall right now. It does not have a drive-through. It's a small unit. It's like 250 square feet. So we're kind of running that / testing that. So there are opportunities out there, but again, I would recommend, and again, listen, I get it. Real estate is like, that's the biggest challenge, right? That's the biggest
Yeah.
opportunity. So, yeah, I mean, real estate's important, and drive-through, in my opinion, is generally speaking, it is important to have that.
Okay. And
Um,
I mean, yeah, continue, please.
Justin?
we've got more questions in the chat that have been coming up. Megan, I feel like some of those were answered by marketing. Do you want to ask if he didn't cover something?
No, I mean that was helpful. He was kind of, as I was typing that, you sort of answered some of that. There's definitely a difference for states who aren't familiar with sort of the dirty soda brand. Where I'm at in Billings, Montana, we have one kind of homegrown brand. And when, I'll be honest, when they first opened up, I was like, what is that? Like, that's a silly idea. But of course, I don't live in Utah and I wasn't familiar with it. And there's always about 13 cars in the drive-through right now, but it took time to kind of introduce that.
Absolutely.
And so, I think FiiZ has, I mean, it's definitely a more, polished brand. It's not homegrown. So I think that's great. But, was just kind of curious what kind of support that looked like. And then, you've got like a really good social media and Instagram presence. Do you allow franchisees to go rogue and, create their own Instagrams or their own social media presence for their own stores regionally, or how does that work? Do you have any stipulations on that?
Yeah, all great questions, Megan. So thank you. Billings, Montana. Actually, Justin, we just talked about Billings the other day, right?
Yep. Yeah, this is the group that wants to do it in Billings.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, guys, hold on 1 second. Just give me 1 second. Hi, sorry about that. So Billings, by the way, I love Montana. So from a marketing standpoint, I'm glad you're bringing that up, because so what we do for these new markets. So listen, we understand that we think we've kind of figured out, how to be successful in Utah. And one of the things that we've really worked hard on is how are we successful outside of Utah? And I don't know if you were on earlier, but we talked about, we have the store in Richland, Washington, and we have a store in Tucson, Arizona. We just opened up in Madison, in Jackson, Mississippi. And these are all stores that we've had to take a different approach with marketing, because to your point, we have to educate the consumer. We have to educate our customers. And although we don't like to use the word dirty soda, we understand that it's a, it's a phrase that's used. But yes, we do have to educate, our consumers on what not only what FiiZ is about, but what the whole soda craze is about. So we do things differently in these, non-soda markets, to help, from an education standpoint. So that's, I think that's the answer to that part. I'm sorry, what was the other part of your question? I apologize. Megan?
The current kind of homegrown business that's here in Billings, they only have like modular, like essentially you could move them, right? You could move these units. They're stuck in, right now they're placed in, big like parking lots or kind of lots that are near like car washes, or they're easily drive in and drive outable. So I guess I'm just curious, like, is when you say modular, is that what we're talking about? Like you could actually, almost like a kiosk, like a 1 unit kiosk type coffee thing, or are you looking at where there's no walk-in traffic? Is that something that's doable, or is that not?
Yeah, so typically what I'm looking at right now from a modular standpoint is, so back to the earlier discussion, sometimes real estate can be a challenge, right? It's hard to find that 1,200 to 1,500 square foot, with a drive-through or an end cap. So what I would like to be able to do, and we've done this in other places, is let's have a modular of 700, 800 square feet with a drive-through, because I do believe having a drive-through is vital to the success. It's not necessarily in every situation, but generally speaking, we want drive-through. So if I can have a modular spot, where I can put it down in a certain location, I think that's the way to go. So it just kind of depends on the market. But from my perspective, is I have to have that option available to you guys to be able to go out, and do that. Again, I'm not really familiar with the Billings real estate market, but we definitely need to, and this is happening everywhere. It's happening in Utah. It's happening in every major metropolitan area where, real estate is definitely becoming, more challenging. So we got to come up with solutions to be able to be able to do that.
Totally. And I know FiiZ, you guys offer more than just the soda. So we would definitely need space with, the food element of it or whatever. The current market right now has none of that, right? They're just popcorn and it's solely just drive through. So, I mean, it's one of the most profitable per square foot businesses right now. They just need some competition. So
that's awesome. And by the way, I believe if you competitors that are being successful, that just means there's a market for it, right?
Right.
That's why there are markets where you have Dunkin's and Starbucks right next door to each other, or Burger King's and McDonald's, or whatever it is. It just shows that there's a need for the market. And then it's up to us to come in, execute, give the customer a great experience, and then we're off and running.
Got it. And then last question, and you're probably familiar with this and how you do this in Utah, but like, if we open up three stores in Billings, Montana, and somebody else in Billings comes and approaches you, about doing that, or going, 7 miles down the road at, in another community from Billings, how do you guys negotiate that? Do you ever give the original franchisee who kind of introduced the brand to the market a right of first refusal, or just curious kind of how you negotiate that, or it's just like free game?
Yeah, so great question. So for Billings, for example, and Justin, if you want to chime in, please. But so for example, that would be a new market for us. So Justin and his team will actually they'll do a market report, a market analysis, and they'll determine, okay, we think we can put, five, I'm just throwing out a number, but 5 stores in the Billings market. And Megan, let's just assume you're our franchisee. You've come in, you're interested in that market. We'll immediately, work with you to put together, a plan, a deal to do 3 or 5 locations over a 3 or 5 year period. And based on our market analysis of 5 stores, you would be our franchisee. You may come to us down the road and say, okay, hey, you know what? There's this new community that's being developed, 10 miles away. we'd love to go into that market. Well, you're our franchisee up there, so that's, you would have that opportunity or right of first refusal to do that. So for an area like Billings, I think it's a little bit easier. As you get into bigger markets like Chicago, for example, or even Austin or Dallas, obviously you're talking about millions of people, and there may be, okay, you know what, we think we could put 20 or 25, FiiZs into this market. So that's where typically we would do like a development territory with you, where we'll give you the rights to X amount of units in a particular territory. And that'll be mapped out for you either by zip code or literally, by city or county or whatnot. And then that's kind of how we would, typically, move forward. So you would get that protected territory. And then from there, we would kind of go from there. But yeah, so nobody would infringe.
We've got probably 30 seconds left for this call. We could end the call and start it back up and people could join back again, or we could just end it here, whatever you want to do.
That was a super helpful answer. Thank you. I got what I needed. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Megan. Yeah, and I'll just say in closing, first of all, if anybody has any additional questions, please direct them right to Justin, and we will absolutely make sure either on a one-on-one call or we can respond to you guys via